What's up guys? My name is Zach and today I am driving a 1986 Oldsmobile Forenza Cruiser. Up front is a 2.0 liter inline 4 and down below is a 4-speed manual transmission. Now I am super excited to be driving this here Forenza for a couple of reasons. First of all, they're rare. I've never seen or driven a Forenza and that's always exciting. The second reason is the fact that it's a J-body. I've been slowly collecting J-bodies like they're infinity stones here on the channel, so I'm excited to add the Forenza to my repertoire. And thirdly, this is a 4-speed manual. It's a manual J-body. It's my first time driving one like it. So a ton of exciting things to expect out of this video. But before we get on to anything else, I have a website, zachpradel.com, where you can buy stickers and other merchandise when it becomes available. You could also submit your own vehicle to be reviewed by me through a quick and easy submission form, and you get a video of your car just like this one. And you could read my behind the scenes blog to see what I'm filming before it comes out on the channel. But let's get back to that 2-liter under the hood. Well, it doesn't make a whole lot of horsepower. It's down below 100, but that's not really important. It's the same engine that you would have found in the same year Cavalier, same body style Cavalier, and GM used it across multiple vehicles. Now, what I do want to talk about is that 4-speed manual transmission. It really wakes up that 2-liter under the hood. It feels like a completely different engine. It feels livelier, and I can utilize the power a lot better than the 3-speed automatics that came in J-bodies. So, with all things considered, this actually feels quicker and is a lot more enjoyable to drive than the other Cavaliers because of that transmission. And that is really special. Last but not least, of course, this is a J-body, so it is front-wheel drive. With that out of the way, let's talk about the interior. We do have some interesting things in here. Well, in front of me, I have 4 gauges. On the left, I get my battery and oil warning light. Then I get my speedometer and fuel to the right, and then I get more warning lights off to the far right for coolant and seatbelt. What's interesting is that this is a factory manual car and it does not get a tachometer. Modern manual cars seem to almost always get a tachometer, but back in the day, wasn't that common. The F-150s from the 90s that were manual also didn't get a tachometer. So par for the course when it comes to 80s manual cars. Down below to the left of the gauge cluster, I do have my parking lights and headlights as well as interior lights. And off to the right under the gauge cluster, I have my air conditioning options. Very interesting placement here in the Forenza, which this was optioned originally with AC back in the day, which is a nice touch. The steering wheel is comfortable, has the Oldsmobile badge, but what's interesting is that the spokes are so low on the steering wheel, but there are finger grips around the back, up around the top, so you can still hold it in a slightly sporty fashion. Off to the left, I have 2 climate control vents and the hood release. J-bodies are known for having their hood release up higher where you can actually see it all the time instead of hidden under the dash like modern cars. And then on the door, I have manual mirrors up top, my latch to get in and out and lock, and then of course my crank for the window. I also get this nice Forenza badge on the door. I really like that nice special touch. Moving into the center, I have 2 more climate control vents and I get this little cubby. And when you pop it up, the lid actually says coins and money clip. I find this really interesting. Oldsmobile had to tell you what the stuff was. Kind of funny to see. Then I do have the Delco radio, God bless America. Nothing too crazy here, however, it was found in almost all of the J-bodies. The Cimarron got a little bit nicer of one, but I'm pretty used to seeing these and they work well when they tend to work. Down below that, I do have a little cubby and my cigarette lighter. And then moving on to the center console, I have an ashtray up top, and then I have my shift pattern for the manual transmission. So this is the stock transmission shifter. I love the little ball up at the top. It has a ring that you pull up on, and that's how you engage reverse. And it does have quite the rubbery shift boot, which is to be expected out of a vehicle like this. Then I get the handbrake, meaning we don't have any cup holders here in the Forenza, so unfortunately it fails the big friggin' bottle test. Now we gotta talk about the seats. The seats are comfortable. I've said this a million times. GM really knew what they were doing back in the 80s when it came to comfortable seats. I've never driven an 80s Chevy, Buick, Pontiac, Oldsmobile, Cadillac that I didn't feel comfortable sitting in. And I love that about GM of this era, and something that I always speak about. But while we're on the topic of seats, we do have back seats, so let's go do a backseat review. All right, so we're in the back of the 1986 Oldsmobile Forenza Cruiser, and the Cruiser is the important part because it is the wagon. We'll talk about that in a second. So I get this nice tall headliner, nice tall space for me to sit. My knees are not hitting the seat in front of me. My head is not hitting the ceiling. I actually fit back here, which is not easy to say for me. Still get crank windows, I get locks on the doors and things like that. Nothing too crazy. However, I do only get lap belts. So this is before shoulder restraints in back seats of American cars. So no shoulder restraints to be seen here, which is kind of funny. Other than that, nothing too crazy to write home about, but it's just fun being back here. I can't imagine all of the road trips that this car went through, especially being a more family-oriented vehicle, a station wagon. I'm sure that the road trip stories are plentiful with this car, especially with over 300,000 miles on it. But now let's go take a quick look at the trunk and cargo space, and then we'll talk about the looks. All right, so we're on the back of the Forenza. This is the era of 2 keys from GM. I also get this nice Oldsmobile Forenza little badge, but the circular one is for the body. And there you go. So as I was talking about, and as I talk about later, GM plastics don't really hold up that well. I mean, you can't blame it, 300,000 miles, but it's all still here, and you get tons of space back here. It is a wagon for wagon's sake, and you actually get to utilize a bunch of extra space, which is really awesome to see. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and I really do love the look of the Forenza. It is very obviously still a J body, but it has different little accents here and there, which I really like. The interesting thing is that this is the Forenza Cruiser, and the Cruiser was the wagon variant. Now, you could get it in a sedan as well, but this is the Cruiser, and according to the owner, Justin, he doesn't know of any other that are still roaming the streets here in America. He knows of one up in Canada, but apparently it's been off the road for over 2 decades. So what you're looking at is something quite rare here in America these days. And that's always fun to be driving. But now, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think finally driving an Oldsmobile Forenza from 1986? Well, I'm not really marking too much new territory here on the channel. If you're a fan of the channel, you'll see that I've done a first-gen Cavalier, a first-gen Cavalier wagon, and I've done a Cimarron, as well as other newer J bodies, like the newer Cavaliers and things like that. So this isn't particularly groundbreaking, but the more and more J bodies that I drive, the more I fall in love with them, because they are different flavors of the same ice cream. And there's just something about them. They're these plucky little cars that seem to fight until the absolute bitter end. No, GM build quality during this era was not good. And to be fair, I don't know if it ever really recovered. But driving this car, especially with the manual transmission, it's just a happy little car. It's scrappy. It's a mutt. And yet sometimes mutts are the happiest to have a home. And I think this Forenza is definitely happy to have a home with Justin, an Oldsmobile enthusiast and just an all-around good guy. Now this morning, I met the owner of this car, Justin, for the first time. And before I met Justin, I heard good things from his friend Spencer, who had the Oldsmobile Silhouette. And I heard good things about Spencer from Aaron, who owned the first-gen Cavalier and Cimarron. And I heard good things about Aaron from David, who owned the early 90s DeVille that I filmed. And my reason for bringing this up is that the front-wheel drive GM community is so welcoming and so tight-knit. I've been a part of a lot of car clubs. Because of my career, I've been added to a lot of Facebook pages, a lot of car groups, a lot of car clubs. I've been given a lot of stickers, and please keep them coming. I love stickers, but that's not the point. The front-wheel drive GM group is one of the nicest and most welcoming groups I've ever been a part of. And I think that all has to do with these cars. They just give off this very positive, friendly vibe. And the other thing is that GM owners tend to acknowledge their faults, unlike other car communities. You know, Mazda RX-8 owners refuse to believe the fact that the rotary engine in those cars, the Renesis, is deeply flawed. They move the exhaust ports to the irons. The apex seals are too thin. They blow up way too easily, and they're hard to modify. But RX-8 owners don't want to hear it. You tell a GM guy hey, your headliners are terrible. The plastics on the inside shake and rattle like no one's business. They go, yeah. Yeah, they do. But I love it. And that's what makes a strong and awesome car community. And so that's why I'm so excited to keep driving these J bodies, to keep driving these interesting old front wheel drive GMs. Because I really truly believe it's one of the best car communities I've ever been a part of. This thing is cool. This thing is ridiculously, ridiculously cool. I can't say enough good things about it. I can't say enough good things about Justin. I'm very, very grateful that he let me take this car out. Such a rare car nowadays here in 2022, and it's only going to get more and more rare. So I hope this video can provide a service of preserving this car in all of its glory. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.